Okay, good morning. So we'll finish off Shin Yud Daled this morning, just the short last few seifim, and then we'll talk about something which emerges from the last seif, and that is playing darts on Shabbos. Is that allowed? So I looked into it a little bit. So it emerges from the last seif. So let's finish off. So Yud, Chaysoma Shebekarka. Seals that are in the ground. Imagine you've got like a pit and you've got a door on top of it and it's tied with some sort of rope. You're allowed to release, to cut that rope. Because that rope is, is sort of opening and closing. The door is opening and closing. It's not a permanent knot, and therefore you can be matter. You can untie that knot. But you can't unravel the knot itself because that is a problem of stira. And dafka when. Also it was there. When is it a problem? When it's also that it was made that you're not going to undo it. But if it's not there lekaim at all, for any permanence, then mutter that would be okay. So in those days they would put some sort of plank of wood in front of an oven for shorkin oisoi batit, and they would cement it into the oven. I think to keep the warmth in the oven. I think she'ena also lekiyum, because you're going to break open that door in order to access the oven, and therefore that's certainly not going to be there for any permanence, and that would be okay. Vayin le'el siman reish nun tes. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah, mem gimel mishum stira dekivin shel mechubel lekarka yesh b'mishum binyan v'stira, because these openings, these covers for these pits and things, that's actually mechubel lekarka, and therefore it's shaykh binyan v'stira. Shelo lahasir mem daled ela b'motzei Shabbos. You're not going to be you're going to remove it on Shabbos. Ela b'motzei Shabbos avadim ein daitel hasir af b'motzei Shabbos. But if your intention is not even to remove it even on Motzei Shabbos, and therefore it's there for a longer term, af lahatirei also, even to untie the knot is going to be a problem. To have a ktsas kesher shel kayama, because it will it's closer to a kesher shel kayama. All right, when Mr. will do the halachas of kosher and matzah, it's in due course, and we'll look into all the various shittas about that. It's an interesting area. Okay, weiter. Yud Aleph. Also litain shaiva oishemen. You're not allowed to put wax or thick oil benekef hechovis in an opening of a barrel lesosmoi, to sort of plug it up, because you are smoothing. Memareach is one of the avos malachas. Pirush ha'orach. What is the orach? He explains: sicha, oiling; meshicha, and smearing; ticha, plastering; mericha, spreading; shia is smoothing. Inyan echadu. It's all the same type of activity, the same concept, and it all falls under the issa of memareach. Avol b'shad dvarim deles meruach, but something which is not caught by smoothing, hoil ve'ein hayayin yotze oz, since the wine is not coming out of it, muta, that would actually be allowed. So if you just put a cork in the side of a barrel or something else, then that would be okay. Let's just stop there and do the Mishnah Berurah on that bit. Shaiva eshemen of. So you're not allowed to put wax or oil into the hole of a barrel lesosmoi. Says the Mishnah Berurah, memhei afal gav de'ein meiruach b'shemen. Even though there's no meiruach, there's no smoothing with very sort of liquidy oil. Excuse me. Also, it's forbidden. Mhy? It's the gazrin and otzu shaiva, because we make a gezerah otzu shaiva, just like you can't do wax, which is proper memareach. Well, so too you can't do a thickish type of oil, even though the oil is more liquidy. V'dafka shemen of, but it's got to be a thicker type of oil. Kim the shaykh b'ktsas meirach, that it's shaykh smoothing a little bit. Also lachlufa, you might come to confuse it with wax, which is definitely a problem of meirach. V'hai shaiva tzarich lema de'echinu l'tashmish me'esmo. And in addition, you've got to say that the shaiva we're talking about is where you designated it yesterday before Shabbos, because otherwise, aside from the memareach problems, you've got a problem of muktzah. The lav klihu, it's not considered a kli. But when you designate it for this purpose, then it will be mutter to move it, and it's not a problem of muktzah. We don't say a gezerah, you might attach it to a wall or to something else. Because that even if you did, it's not really an issa derais, it's only a drabon and shema yamarech, but es hadibuk, you might come to smooth it when you attach it. Okay, shuman v'chelev dinei kashaiva, various types of fats and oils, shuman and fats and chelev, dinei kashaiva, have got the same din as shaiva. Says, if you look at 33, v'af she'ein issa mamarech ba'eichlel, even though we don't generally say there is an issa of mamarech with eichlin. So for example, let's say in Shabbos you want to spread some peanut butter, some jam, some chocolate spread on a piece of bread, that's not a problem. There's no issa mamarech with eichlin. Habir halacha lekaman. I'm just reading 33. The Bir halacha explains shahainu dafka kashem mamarech es eichel atzmei. That's when you take the food itself. So if I were to take my peanut butter, my chocolate spread, and I were to spread it over the bread, that's no problem because there's no issa mamarech with eichlin itself. Avol im soisem pi hachovis u'mamarcha mumala shaykh b'shamarech. But here, I'm taking the oil or the wax and I'm doing mamarech into the hole in the side of the barrel. So I'm not doing mamarech with the food, I'm doing it in a barrel which is holding food. That's a different story, and therefore that's going to be a problem. Okay, mamarech, says the Mishnah Berurah, Sifat and Memvov, v'kivan shehu mishum chashash meruach, since there is a concern of spreading, of smoothing, it's a problem even if you don't put the shemen inside the hole, even just placing it on the outside, al gaboy memala from the outside, it will still be a problem. We're going to see that distinction soon. Mutter, what is this going on? But if you've got other substances which you haven't got a concern of meruach, then that would be allowed to plug the gap. You've got a cork, for example, to put in the side of the barrel, that would be okay. Even to insert it in the hole, since the wine is not going to be coming out without any form of preparation, you're not being masak in the barrel, you're just putting the cork back in the side. We actually say that the Ikka halacha is like the Rambam, who argues with this. Even if the wine does not exit through that hole, you can't put anything in the hole to plug it up, because doing so is like boina. But if you do it on top of the hole, then there's no problem really of binyan. And there the only issue is memareach. Okay, let's carry on. Then we're up to the end of the second line. If the wine does come out of that opening, you can't plug it up. Even to put a garlic there, he's saying, I'm not plugging the hole, I don't know where to put the garlic, I'll put it over here. That's a harama, and you can't do that. But if it's a Talmid Chacham, that would be okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah Memches, also l'sosmai, midrabanan, b'pnei temechzik masakin. Because it looks like you're being masak in the barrel. And that's dafka if you use something which you do not ordinarily use to plug the gap. With straw or with things like that. But you're allowed to put some wood in or a cork or something like that. If that's the natural plug for the barrel, so then you can clearly open and close it, no problem. And if you're taking something else which is not normally used, then you can't. And you can't do a harama unless you're a Talmid Chacham. You can't lo masha'ein mechavin. Given the be'emes mechavin l'sosna, because that is your intention and therefore you can't do it. V'im Talmid Chacham hu, then you're allowed to. How come? To kimin shu Talmid Chacham, says Mishnah Berurah, ein lochish by, we're not worried. She'em natzirenu al yedei harama yovel la'aver al issa drabonan zeh afilu b'lei harama. We're not worried that if we allow him to do this, he might come to do another harama. Because it's a Talmid Chacham and we're not concerned. The cost of Magen Avram, the after Kaimlon to Idna Elon Din Talmid Chacham. Now there's a big discussion. Do we have the status of a Talmid Chacham nowadays? You see, sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. So says the Magen Avram, even though generally speaking nowadays we don't have this. No one has the status of a Talmud Chacham. In this respect, you don't have to be machmir, and you can, a person can take on as got a din of a Talmud Chacham to allow him to do this harama, to put down this garlic or something to plug the gap. And there are those who argue with this Magen Avraham and say there is a din Talmud Chacham. Sorry, we don't have a din Talmud Chacham nowadays, and therefore he's like everyone else and he can't do the harama. Okay, Yud Beis, last seif in the Siman. Sakin shel tochav b'kaisel. If you've got a knife which is sort of stuck in the wall, shel eitz, a wooden wall, imagine like you've got a fence or something like that, and you've got an axe head or something, or a knife stuck in it, from before Shabbos. Also lohitzir b'Shabbos. It's also to take it out of the wall on Shabbos, because this is considered mechuba. Avalim tochav b'safsal. But if it was inserted in something which is tolush, which is not mechuba, i.e. a bench or a chair or something like that, then you'll be able to take the knife out. But if you sort of you put it in the wall and then you took it out and you put it back, you used it regularly, then even in the wall it will be allowed to sort of store it there and put it back and take it out on Shabbos. Says the Mishnah Berurah, shel eitz, nokat shel eitz, to b'kaisel shel leveinim motzu kama pa'omim she'ein shuroseim u'dibokim zelazeh. Because if it's a brick wall, sometimes you find that the rows are not exact and there are little gaps in the brick wall, and to store something in there, that's okay. And therefore you can take it out of a brick wall, even if it wasn't. You didn't sort of use it, putting things in and out of it from before Shabbos. It's dafka a fence, a wooden wall, which we're concerned about. Why? What is the concern? So it says the Mishnah Berurah, Nun Beis, also because by taking the knife out of the wooden wall, kiven shehoya mitchila takua k'tas b'chayzek. You imagine you put it in with a bit of force. You're going to widen the gap. You're going to widen the little hole that the knife is now occupying. By you taking the knife out, you're sort of making a little hole in the wall, and that's a tolda of boineh, and that's the concern.
What's the difference between mechuba or not mechuba?
Because boineh with mechuba is much more, because if it was a keli, then it's ein binim b'stir of a kelim. But if it's mechuba, then you've got a problem, because it's a proper problem of boineh. Even though I just want the knife, I'm not mischaven to make a hole in the wall, and I'm not even thinking about boineh and things like that. Kimat psik reshu. It's inevitable. As soon as you take it out, you're making a little hole in the wall, and therefore that's a tolda of boineh, and it's a psik reshu. And therefore, even if you don't have the kavan, it's still a problem. Okay. Shari, what is that going on? But if it's in a where's that going on? Nun Gimel. It's the very end of the Ramah. But if you had taken this knife and put it in and out of the wall before Shabbos, and that's its normal storage space, and you've already made the hole and you've taken it out and put it back in, then it would be okay. Then I can take it out on Shabbos. And I can store it there again after I've used it. I can put it back in the wall. Since I've already put it there from before Shabbos, so and then I take it out, put it back in. The place that it's occupying is already quite broad, is already broadened a bit. And therefore you're not creating holes, because it's just storing it in an already made hole, and therefore it's not a psik, you're making a new hole or anything, or widening it. Near the also. If you didn't put it there before Shabbos, then the chayr it's also litchevos b'kaisel da'dayin and nisrachav b'mashertzir pamachas minakaisel, because then it's by taking it out you will be broadening it. So therefore that will be the problem. Okay, so Yud Beis, we've said that if you've got a knife which is in a wooden wall, to take it out for the first time is a problem on Shabbos, because you're creating this hole, you're widening the hole, and it's a tolda of boineh. But if it's a brick wall where there are little gaps, that would be okay. And if it's a wall where you put it in before Shabbos and you've taken it out, in and out, then it would be okay. So we spoke a few days ago about darts on Shabbos. So that's a good application of this. Are you allowed to play darts on Shabbos? So what could be the issues? I just checked it out this morning, and I came across an article by someone called Daniel Mann, I think, that he goes through the various issues. And let's go through. So what are the problems? So the one problem could be tofer. Tofer is when you take two things and you attach them to each other. That's tofer. So you could argue, by me playing darts, assuming I'm a reasonable player, and I can hit the thing, so it's going to attach, the dart is going to stay into the board. So I'm attaching two things together. But there, since I'm putting the dartboard in for a very short period of time, I'm playing, and then the next player, I guess, takes it out, or I take it out. If it's there for a very short period of time, then it's going to be okay. So long as I don't, after the last player plays, I don't leave the darts there, there's no problem of tofer, because tofer is only sort of attaching items together on a more permanent basis. Next problem could be boina, but here I'm not improving the board. It's a keli anyway, true, but I'm not improving the board. I'm not doing anything to sort of benefit it, so therefore the poskim are not really worried about boina. And the third problem, which could be a problem, is the Gemara in Shabbos, Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph says, you're not allowed to attach a nail to a wall on Shabbos. To knock in a nail to a wall on Shabbos is a problem, is not allowed. But the Ksos HaShulchan says that that's only a problem if you attach the nail to the wall in order to use the nail as some sort of peg or something. But if I'm going to remove it later, and the example the Ksos HaShulchan gives is the knife in a wall, Asif, which is based on the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Nun Amud Aleph, then if I'm going to remove it later, that's not a problem it doesn't fall foul of this Gemara of attaching a nail to a wall, because I'm going to remove it later. And I'm not worried about enlarging the hole, in the case of a dartboard, because I've got hundreds of holes in the dartboard, and it's not making it easier to take in or to take out or anything like that. So mitzad that, we're not really worried. So the only issue is really tofer if you're going to keep the darts in. So l'chayra, he concludes that playing darts on Shabbos would not be a problem so long as you don't leave the darts in the dartboard. So the pinboard, the Piskei Teshuvah says it depends very much how long you're going to leave the thing in for. So again, if you're leaving it in for, again, there's a problem of tofer. If you're leaving it in for a longer period of time, then you've got a problem. He mentioned that he bases his take on tofer based on the pinboard of the Piskei Teshuvah. So I'm not saying it's the best way to spend Shabbos, but l'cher, if you take the darts out, then it would be okay. What? Yeah.
Magnets can be the same problem.
Magnets. Yeah. So
Toifer is the problem.
we spoke about so putting magnets on a fridge. L'cher, we spoke about it in Ksiva. Did we speak about it? I can't remember. I've got a share on Turning Time on that. Of taking the letters of Scrabble, and putting them one after the other is actually okay. Say for example, you've got to go out Shabbos day and you want to leave a message for your wife or your kids saying, we're at the Goldbergs for lunch, right? Don't forget. And you want to write the Scrabble letters or with fridge magnet letters on the table, then it's going to be okay. But to attach it to the fridge, then I think we said there's a problem.
As in writing ksiva.
Yeah, exactly. Ksiva because it's got some sort of permanence. But Scrabble per se, playing on Shabbos is a problem, not because of ksiva, interestingly, because keeping the points. And Chazal say that you might come to write. It's a gezerah of writing. So it's caught by that. That's why it's not allowed to play Scrabble on Shabbos. But in terms of actually putting one block letter after another, that's not considered writing. Using Scrabble letters to leave a message.
But putting a magnet onto a fridge is a problem.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay, say that.